Dream and Mystics versus Valkyries and Wings. I got to be honest, the Valkyries, I'm fascinated by their turnaround, but we're going to start with the Dream and the Mystics because this is the Dream. This is the dream team, no pun intended, that I think maybe we thought could have the potential. They've won 6 out of 7. And yet here are the Mystics. They've won 5 straight, not against the worst competition in the league. So I don't think it's that big of a fluke. But you got 2 teams that are on hot streaks. We see this in the WNBA, ups and downs. And you got 2 teams at the up here. But I like this Dream. I just like this Dream team. I think they got some real bite to them. What do you think? What do you think of this game?
Well, I agree with you about the Dream. And coming into the season, I thought they were going to be one of the teams that was going to contend for the title. I thought they were going to be, they showed signs of it last year. I thought they were going to take that next step. But then they had that mid-season stretch there where they went in that slump. But you know what? We're going to look at this game. And if you remember last week, I talked about schedules and, I talked about looking at, previous meetings, when they played, what happened, and what the teams are doing currently with scheduling wise, because the WNBA has a lot of quirky scheduling and, got us 2 wins on the show last week. So let's see if we can do that again. And I'm going to point out Washington is a good defensive team. They like to play slow down offense and they play good defense. But if you look, they've gone over 4 of their last 5 games. But if you dig deeper into that, it's a result of what the schedule was. Their last 6 games, Andy, they had 2 different sets of back-to-back games. And I've preached about this. I don't like it when these teams play the back-to-back games. They played back-to-back against Golden State. They played back-to-back against Dallas. And when you play a team 2 games in a row, you seem to have a tendency for these games to go off script. And, a defensive team all of a sudden shows up and gives you a couple overs. And what that has done for us now is skewed the total because Washington was such an under team, they kept adjusting the numbers to balance it out. Well, now they're sending the numbers back the other way, overcompensating, and we got value again. And where the value is at is in the first half of this game. If you look at Atlanta, they're 10-3 to the under on the road in their first halves this season. Now, that's a strong angle just by itself. But then I look at Washington and I find that all of their games, whether it's home or away, they're 21-8 to the under in the first half. And if they're an underdog like they are tonight, that goes to 15-4 to the under. That's where I'm going, Andy. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's go ahead and take under. And I'm seeing it like 82.5 for the first half.
All right, taking the under in that game. And this Valkyries team, I didn't see this coming. I've talked to Ski about this one. He was like, yeah, I thought they had some good players and some good moments, but last 6 games, this is your number 1 team defensively and number 4 in offense. That is a recipe to make a run at the championship. They're only a couple games behind your Aces, 3 behind the Lynx, and yet the Wings are only 2 behind the Valkyries. So what are your thoughts on these 2 teams in this matchup tonight?
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Golden State all year. And the reason it starts with their defense. Okay. This is a team that, unlike probably 3/4 of the WNBA, they play defense and they frustrate you. Now, we've seen in recent games, they've shown up on the offensive end. They're getting the job done offensively. Part of that's been some of the teams that they have played. But I look at this Dallas team and heading into the All-Star break, they were playing good basketball. I've talked about them several times on the show. This is a young team that's just learning how to win. And when they've been installed as a favorite, a lot of times they are winning the games, but not covering the games. But let's just talk because we've got a number tonight where it's just pick the winner. Okay. We're looking at a number of -1, 1.5. And heading into the All-Star break, they had won 7 of 8 games. Their only loss during that 8-game stretch was a 1-point loss to the New York Liberty, but it's got to be noted that in that game, Paige Beckers did not play. and they still only lost by a point. So they were playing some of the best basketball heading into the All-Star break. Well, coming out of the All-Star break, what happened? The old WNBA schedule jumped up and bit them right in the butts. They've gone 1-3 after the All-Star break. And if you look at those 4 games after the All-Star break, they started with that red-hot Atlanta team that we talked about previously. They had a 1-point gut-wrenching home loss to Atlanta. Then what they had to do, they had to turn around, go on the road, and go to Washington. We talked about that on the show last week. We took Washington in that game. I thought it was a great spot, the old lose the same game twice scenario, and they did. But Dallas had to turn around from the Washington game, fly back home to play Connecticut, only to turn around and get back on a plane and go back to Washington. Why in God's name did they not just play back-to-back games in Washington instead of making them fly back there to play twice in a 3-game stretch? That was just stupid. It was bad spot for them, and that resulted in a 1-3 record. Now I think you're going to see the Dallas team that we saw before the All-Star break. They're back at home. They're focused on this game, and it is a big game because Golden State is the new kids on the block. They're trying to make a statement, but so is Dallas. And I'm going to go ahead and take them here, and I love to look at previous meetings. I know what happened in the past has no bearing on the future, but I like to look for an asterisk in that first game. And you want to talk about an asterisk? When they met the first time, Dallas was coming off of playing a game at home where they won by 30 points against my Las Vegas Aces, 96-66. This was earlier in the season. It was June 15th. They then had to turn around and fly cross country, go to play at Golden State. We talked about those first games of road trips in Golden State, how tough they are for teams. They lost that game by 11 points. This was a young team that was feeling fat and sassy after that big win against the Aces. I think you get a focused team tonight, and we see the real Dallas team. And I'll throw one more at you. We've got an WNBA angle that home teams that are coming off a loss as a favorite, and they're playing just their 5th game in a 14-day period. And the reason they qualify is because they had all those days off for the All-Star break. So this is 5 games or less in 14 days. Those teams in the WNBA since 2022, 66-23 straight up. Go ahead, give me Dallas tonight. We don't have to really worry about the point spread. They just got to win it. And I think this is their statement game tonight.
Rob always wants to know your thoughts for the ponies this weekend. Marco, do you have any thoughts?
It's going to be a big Saturday card at Saratoga. I'm going to have several races on my card, which I've been doing the last couple Saturdays. Big race that I am looking forward to tomorrow is the Whitney Stakes at Saratoga. We've got what a lot of people feel is the best horse in the sport right now in magnitude. We've got the Kentucky Derby winner from last year, Sovereignty. And then we've got Baeza, who, if you bet on him as I have the last 2 races, and he's blown the start and spotted the field like 10 lengths, only to come flying at the end and just miss out. He's in that race too. So it's going to be a fun Whitney, and I will have coverage. It will be included at no extra charge in my all access passes. And the best way to do that is grab that 3-day all access. Okay. Buy a 3-day package for $69. That in itself is great because it gets you Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But you're going to get 3 bonus days on top of that. And we have been rolling. 14-6 on my last 20 baseball plays, 4-1 on my last 5 WNBA plays. And then you're going to get the horses too. No brainer. Head on over, check it out. Another no brainer is check out Marco's Deli. I'll be recording that after we get done with this show. That'll be up early evening tonight. If you tuned in to Wager Talk today, last Friday, you got the 2-0 from me on the show. Then I come back on the Deli and gave you 2 more WNBA winners last week on the Deli. So we're reading things very, very well right now, Andy. So let's keep it rolling.